Another thing that happened this past weekend was a homeless activist who goes by the name of Toyin went missing. Her body was found late last night. There have also been several Black men found hanging from trees, one in Palmdale, California. Is America declaring a civil war? Is that what's happening now?
That is, I don't think that that's heavy, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a declaration necessarily. I think that Black people have been fighting for their lives since we were.
Because let's face it, this looks like, for me, this looks like a portion of America is spitting in our faces in the middle of a pandemic. Like literally spitting in our faces. People are out there protesting, they're dying, they're going to jail, homes are being destroyed, businesses are being destroyed, all in the name of justice, equality for Black lives, brown lives. And then how is it possible that in the middle of a protest so strong that has become not nationwide, but worldwide, how does then America hang a man? How? How does that happen in the middle of a protest? How does America take a woman who's an activist with the Black Lives Matter movement, assault her, and then make her disappear somewhere? How have we come in contact? Why are we still talking? Like, why are we off George Floyd now? We can't even talk about his death no more because there have been 5 more since. Yeah. This is absolutely a spit in our faces. This is the Karen at its height. I don't understand what's happening. How is that possible? How is America so bold to say, fuck you, Black people, like that, in that manner? That's what they're saying to us. I killed that nigga and I'll kill that one and that one too. In the middle of your protest.
Well, because it's rooted. I mean, a boldness that comes from a rooted experience of they truly believe, there are those who truly believe that this is their country and that Black people don't belong here. So in this moment where they're seeing us take power, it is threatening to them in a way that they have never, quite frankly, had to feel that kind of threat from our community. They're acting out, they're showing us what they've done. I mean, if you think about this, they've always done this though. That's how we got the Medgar Evers. That's how we got the Emmett Tills. That's how we got all of these bodies that in the middle of civil rights, that's how we lost Martin. That's how we lost Malcolm. Because in the middle of all of this violence, the state sanctioned violence, first of all, and the violence from the communities, it was so rooted that it was still penetrating, if you will, the positivity that was going on. And so we know, and we've been talking about this all, for the last couple of days, is that we have to be prepared for that violence as we seek justice, because otherwise the threat of the violence would paralyze us from doing the work of justice, right?
Absolutely.
So we have to draw from those stories that we know of, all those people who lost their lives, unfortunately, in the pursuit of justice. This is our moment, in the same way that it was their moment in the 50s and the 60s and the 40s. The one thing I will say, though, is the reason why, especially with these lynchings that have happened over the last 2 or 3 days, and they're trying to write them off as suicide. 2 things I would say. Number one is that mental illness, because there's such a conversation right now around mental illness. People saying that, oh, because of the protests, Black people are, maybe that's why they're hanging themselves. First of all, Black people have dealt with this for a long time, and we were not hanging ourselves in the 1800s. When we were getting lynched, we were not hanging ourselves during Jim Crow. We were being lynched by a system. And so anybody who discusses this and not say that it is a system or is a symptom of the system, they are in fact feeding into the narrative that Black people are not strong, that Black people have not been able to take care of themselves, that Black people don't understand the risk and the sacrifice that we have to take for justice. I don't think any last one of them people hung themselves. I think that they were done. It was done by the system, that it was state sanctioned violence by people in this community. The second thing I would say, this
it's clearly a message to us.
it's a message. It is a clarion call that we will do everything that we think we have to do, that your body is at risk if you continue to move in the way that you're moving. But I will tell you that there are a lot of people who, when they see these images, it is not making them shrink, it is making them grow. It is making their passion grow. And I hope that we don't have to see any more of these lynchings. I hope that we're not seeing any more of these bodies, but what it is doing is rallying people beyond recognition. It's the same reason why Emmett Till's mother wanted his casket open. She wanted people to see what was done and to be, ignited by what they saw into action. And that is what's happening with a lot of what we're seeing right now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Shantira.
I mean, she said it. I can amplify that, but absolutely, America is showing its ass. This is what America has always been. And just because a bunch of white people didn't believe us when we told them America was like that, doesn't mean this went away. And we have never, I felt like, I talked to my grandmother, I call her, she was born in the 40s, and I would call her and talk to her about what's going on right now. And she said it feels different, right? It feels different. And lynchings, right, are increasing because they feel it too. And I think that is the thing.
Do you think it feels different for them too?
Absolutely. Us getting the power and the freedom that we deserve has always terrified them.
And getting people to join in on giving us that power, people that look like them.
Yes, because it's not just Black people. And that's the thing. When it's just Black people, they ignore us and they throw tear gas at us. But now it's all the liberal white people who wear Black Lives Matter shirts and safety pins. Now it's the same thing that happened during
safety pins.
And safety pins. The safety pin is not gonna save me. It's not gonna save you either. The fact of the matter is, like, I'm from Tallahassee, Florida. So what happened this weekend is really fucking me up. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm from Tallahassee, and I moved to Chicago after college. And on election night, it was so wild. So many white women crying, looking at me, asking me, like, how did this happen? And I'm like, girl, I'm from Tallahassee, Florida. I already knew it could happen. And I think that is the difference. It's not just Black people always knowing what we know. It's white people finally listening and learning what we know.
I don't buy that. The white folk been knowing. I keep saying that. They've been knowing, Shantira. You know they've been knowing.
Oh, yeah. They've been knowing.
It's in their history books. It's in the books that they've written, how they treated us. It's in the books that they have written. You knew. I don't know what it is about Al Sharpton. Reverend Al Sharpton also said that this feels different. At George Floyd's funeral, I think in Minnesota, he said that during the time that he marched, during the civil rights movement of the 60s, Reverend Al Sharpton said that he would turn around and there would be a white woman telling him, "Nigga, go home." He said this time, a white woman tapped him on the shoulder. He turned around and she said, "No justice, no peace." So he said it is a very different movement than that of the 60s. And if Al Sharpton says that, no matter how you feel about Al Sharpton, you gotta believe him.
I mean, I believe my grandma.
I don't there. Yeah.
I believe my grandma. I mean, I'm here because of her. And she told me it was different. And I trust her more than I trust just about any damn body.
Right. So let's go and talk to our soulmates. Bree says there are paid white nationalist extremists who were sent to different areas to take part of the protest for their own agenda. Do you all believe you're pretty active in this in this fight?
Don't think you have to pay a white nationalist to come and fuck up our movement. So I think that I truly believe that there's a bunch of white nationalists showing up. They start burning stuff down and we get blamed for it. But I don't think anybody had to pay them to hate us.
Okay. Teresa, our soulmate Teresa says, Teresa Marlene says, say what you will about Hillary Clinton. If she were president, this nasty side of America would not be exposed. This nasty side of America, Teresa, I understand your point, but this nasty side of America has always been exposed, in my most humble opinion. And this is actually, to me, become a part of the best side of America because of how there are so many people joining in the fight worldwide. So I don't know. Is this the worst part of America, or are we spraying? Are we exterminating? Is everybody out? We exterminating? Are we exterminating the roaches of racism?
I mean, I think
are we bringing them out?
I think that there's a couple of things happening. One, everyone is being called out of their comfort zone, whether you are racist or not, whether you are for justice or not. You are being asked to make a definite, statement on where you stand in terms of how you feel about Black people, how you feel about justice. And so you're having to answer that question, whether you're a racist or even if you're a Black person, right? And you're having to ask what you're willing to do for justice. It is a calling out. And when someone is called out, they're the most exposed, right? So if you're coming out and you're showing us that you don't care nothing about Black people, you're just as exposed as I am when I'm coming out and saying I'm willing to die for Black people, right? And so that is the moment that we're in. I think we would have got to this moment, whether it was Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, at some point, because hate is always going to show itself back up. It could have been something else that happened. And unfortunately, with Minneapolis, and we've been trying to explain to people this, George Floyd, people were like, well, what happened? Why was George Floyd the tipping point?
Why was he
what you have to understand is Minneapolis had to deal with 4 or 5 different Black men being killed in the same manner. Philando Castile, Jameer, and all of these different people. This same community dealt with this issue for 5 years straight, trying to organize, trying to do stuff the right way, trying to be, not burn down, whatever. And when George Floyd happened, it was so blatant that they realized at that point that their only recourse was to be as intense as the hate. That their strategy and their public display of their concern had to be as intense as what they were seeing. And that's why you saw sort of the significant amount of impact. But when people saw that in other cities, it ignited those individuals who have their own George Floyd stories to remember. They have their own, we're still dealing with Alton Sterling. We're still dealing with Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, all of these people. And we got triggered in such a way by George Floyd because of the blatant way in which he died. And so at that point, it was a rallying call that said, no more. You either got to say you for justice, or you got to expose yourself as a racist. Right. Yeah. And here's what we're willing to do about that.
I think the point was a white man looking into the camera as he killed a Black man saying, I don't care. Look what I'm doing. And smiling the whole time with his hand in his pocket.